Happy morning to you all. I am your physics tutor, Mrs. Vijayalakshmi Ramakrishnan. Today, I am going to cover the chapter Oscillations and Waves. Before that, let me quickly tell you how to access the revision notes and the test paper provided by clay6.com. The revision notes is nothing but we have summarized all the important concepts and formulae for every chapter for all the three subjects: physics, chemistry, and biology, right from the first chapter to the last for both class 11 and class 12. Let me quickly tell you how to access these revision notes and take our tests. So go to clay6.com. This is our home page. Go to the practice. Click on that. You can see several packages here. Click on NEET Premium. There, can you see the revision notes? The revision notes covers all the physics, chemistry, and biology for all 11, 12 NEET for all the entrance exams. We have included all the important concepts and important formulae you'll have to learn, so that it is going to make things easier for you when you attend the NEET exams. So you can see the chapter-wise questions here. Packages offered. It comes free with the package, whatever package you are going to purchase, right from the first lesson to the last lesson. That is the communication systems, which we have summarized everything. Now let us quickly go to the lesson oscillations. Simple harmonic motion. Simple harmonic motion, particles oscillate in a straight line. Accelerations. Acceleration for particle is always directed towards the fixed point. Magnitude of the acceleration is proportional to the displacement. So A is proportional to minus x, or A is equal to minus omega squared x. The negative sign shows that it is going to be the restoring force. X is equal to A sine omega t plus phi, or x is equal to A cos omega t plus phi. Both ways you can write, where A is the amplitude, t is the time period, t is equal to 2 pi root of m by r, where m is the mass and r is the spring constant. Frequency, gamma, is given by 1 by time period, which is equal to 1 by t. Omega t plus phi is called as a phase angle, where phi is the initial phase or epoch. X is equal to, now we saw the displacement, x is equal to A sine omega t plus phi. Now you know velocity is nothing but rate of change of displacement. So v is equal to dx by dt, which is equal to omega A. So when you differentiate this, you get omega A cos omega t plus phi, or v is equal to omega times root of a squared minus x squared. Phase between displacement and velocity is now going to be, now you know sine and cos, they have a phase angle of phi by 2. So the displacement phase angle between the displacement and velocity is phi by 2. Acceleration is rate of change of velocity. So again, when you differentiate this, v, you get minus omega times omega squared minus omega squared sine of omega t phi plus phi. Or you can simply substitute in that place, you can write it as minus omega squared A. Phase difference between the displacement and acceleration is phi. So they are, now you can see they are, the negative sign shows that it is now going to be in the opposite direction. So the phase difference between the displacement and acceleration is phi. Phi. Next is kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is equal to half m omega squared into a squared minus x squared. And the potential energy is equal to half m omega squared x squared. Now you know the total energy is kinetic energy plus potential energy. When you add and simplify, you get half m omega squared a squared. T is the time period which is given by 2 pi root of displacement by acceleration. T for simple pendulum is equal to 2 pi root of L by G. So when the spring is in series, the spring is going to be in series, then you can apply this formula. 1 by R is equal to 1 by R1 plus 1 by R2. And when the spring is going to be in parallel, then it is now going to be R is equal to R1 plus R2. One spring is attached to two masses. If one spring is attached to two masses, then you can apply this formula. M is equal to M1, M2 by M1 plus M2. So from this, we get, you substitute this, you get for time period T is equal to 2 pi root of M by R. A compound pendulum. Time period for a compound pendulum is equal to 2 pi by omega, which is equal to 2 pi root of Is by mgn, where Is is now going to be the moment of inertia. So Is and inertia, ICM is now going to be the inertia, moment of inertia of the center of mass, plus ml squared, where m stands for mass and L stands for the length. So that is equal to mk squared plus ml squared. So T is equal to 2 pi root of k squared by L plus L, k squared IL plus L by G. If it is now going to be a conical pendulum, then T is equal to 2 pi root of H by G, or H is equal to L cos theta, where H is now going to be height, or which is equal to root of L squared minus R squared, where L is the slant height, H is the height of the cone, and G is the acceleration due to gravity. So omega is equal to root of G by L cos theta. So these are the important formulae you'll have to remember in this lesson, oscillations. Now coming to waves. Wave equation, y is equal to a sine omega t minus kx, where k is equal to 2 pi by lambda. Particle velocity is equal to dy by dt, which is equal to a omega cos omega t minus kx, which is nothing but v, because we know rate of change of displacement is velocity, so that is given by v. So this is particle velocity, and wave velocity is given by lambda by t, which is equal to omega by r. Equation of plane progressive waves, y is equal to a sine 2 pi by t into t minus 2 pi by lambda into x. So velocity of wave, if it is now going to be a transverse wave, then the first thing you'll have to know is in a wire, which is equal to mu, which is equal to root of t by m, where mu is the frequency. M is the mass per unit length, and t is the time period. So speed of, I'm sorry children, T is tension here, because in a wire you have tension, right? So T is for tension here. Speed of sound, if it is now going to be a longitudinal wave. Now you know velocity of wave, which is transverse, means that applies for all electromagnetic waves. When it comes longitudinal wave, it is now going to be just the speed of the sound. It is now going to be mechanical waves, which is nothing but sound. Sound is a form of a mechanical wave. So mu is equal to root of E by rho, where E is the elasticity of the medium and rho is the density. So this is now sound is going to differ in the medium. So this is now going to be the velocity of sound differs in solids, liquids, and gases. So we'll have to look into all the three medium now. So velocity of velocity of sound, if it travels through a solid medium, is equal to root of gamma by rho, or y by rho, where y is going to be the Young's modulus, and V liquid is equal to root of V by rho, where V stands for the bulk modulus. V gas is equal to root of P by rho, where P stands for the pressure and rho the density. Next comes the intensity of wave. I is equal to 2 pi squared f squared a squared rho v. I stands for intensity. Now 2 pi squared a rho v, everything is going to be a constant. So you can see I is proportional to f squared. I is directly proportional to f squared, the force. And I is also proportional to a squared, okay, the area. These two are the variable because density is not going to be the same, and 2 pi squared is now going to be the same, and v is now going to be the constant. All these are now going to be the constant. So you can see that I intensity is directly proportional to f and a, square of f and a. Loudness. The intensity beta is always measured in decibels, dB. So beta is equal to 10 log I by I0, where I is the final intensity, or I0 is going to be the initial intensity. So I max by I minimum. So maximum intensity, the ratio of maximum intensity by minimum intensity is equal to A1 plus A2 by A1 minus A2 the whole squared, or you can put it as root of I1 plus root of I2, because already we saw that A is proportional, right? So root of I1 plus root of I2 the whole square divided by root of I1 minus root of I2 the whole square, because A is proportional to A squared is proportional to I, A will be proportional to root of I. That is what we are substituting it here. Transverse stationary waves. First harmonic wave, lambda is equal to 2L, and pth harmonic wave, lambda is equal to 2L by p. For a sonometer, frequency is equal to 1 by 2L root of T by M, where T stands for tension and M mass and L the length. For closed pipe, frequency is equal to 2N plus 1 times nu by 4L, where nu is the frequency, V by 4L, where V is the velocity, and N can take any integral values, and L is going to be the length. So N can take all integral values 0, 1, 2. And for a open pipe, frequency is equal to V by lambda. So the relationship between frequency, wavelength and velocity, where lambda stands for wavelength and V is the velocity, frequency is equal to V by lambda, which is equal to NV by 2L, where N is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So we have quickly covered all the important formulae you have to remember in these two lessons. So generally, the percentage is just 1%. So you can expect one question from this, or it may not come also, but we'll have to be prepared for the worst. So let us quickly look into the example problems. What type of problems can occur from these two lessons? So quickly go to this. All right. So you have different tests for physics, chemistry, biology, and you have the NEET full tests also. So once you are thorough with all the concepts in all the 3 subjects, you can take the full length tests. You can take it any number of times. You have 107 tests here. We have done chapter wise. So the blue bubble says you have not taken the test. The green says you have attempted the test. Even you have attempted it, you can do it any number of times until or otherwise you are satisfied with your result. And ours is the random test which you can take. And yellow bubble says you have incomplete. It's an incomplete test. So you can complete it afterwards, anytime. So you can take the test. Green says you can take the test any number of times. So let me go to the oscillation in waves. I'm going to do the first test. I understand. Go to the test. The first question says, the bouncing of a ping pong ball is circular motion, periodic motion, linear motion, harmonic motion. So which can be the correct option? Obviously, it is not a linear motion because it is not moving along a line. It is moving up and down. It is not a circular motion also. It is not a simple harmonic motion because there is no restoring force, or the restoring force applied is due to gravity is not proportional to the displacement. So it cannot be a simple harmonic motion. So it is a periodic motion as the ball reaches the top periodically. So option B is correct. So quickly save that, go to the next. A stationary observer from far off distance observes a child on the merry-go-round going round and round in a circle through his binoculars. He sees this motion as harmonic, which can be the correct option. Harmonic motion, circular motion, straight line motion, or periodic motion. Now, you can infer from the question that when the observer sees the motion in a horizontal plane, that is, he is viewing from a distance, right? He sees the child to be going back and forth. So the merry-go-round, even though it seems to be a circular motion, for the observer, it is more like, you can say it is more like a going up to and fro motion. It is now going to be more of a to and fro motion at a constant speed. So the horizontal displacement of the function can be given by sine omega t, which is now going to be the motion. Now, you know, if it represents y is equal to sine omega t, then you can say it is now going to be more of a harmonic motion. So you can say that it is now simple harmonic motion. So I can put option A is correct. Save that, go to the next. How many minimum observations of the displacement are required to be made to quantify a simple harmonic motion from the exact equation describing the displacement as a function of time? All right. Generally, when we look into these questions for displacement related questions, you have three unknowns, that is amplitude, frequency, and phase constant. So if amplitude, frequency, phase are made at 3 time intervals, then 3 simultaneous equations can be set. And they can be solved to describe the motion completely. Sometimes the initial displacement and the initial velocity can be both zero. In that case, you'll have 4 unknowns. So we can put it as 3 unknowns. So 3 unknowns is correct. So option 3 is correct. Going to the fourth one, the damped natural frequency is 0, same as undamped natural frequency, higher than undamped natural frequency, lower or equal to undamped natural frequency. All right. Damped natural frequency, you know, is always lower than the undamped natural frequency. This is equivalent. So we can compare this to the roots of the quadratic equation. Now, you know, the roots of the quadratic equation, the discriminant value is greater than 0, then you say the roots are real. And if the roots are lesser than 0, then you say you have complex roots. So here also, you can say damped natural frequency is now going to be lesser than that. So in that case, you have, if it is going to be lesser than that, then you can say it can take imaginary values, or it will be lowly damped. Okay, it will be lowly damped. Okay, and if it is critically damped, the roots will just break it, and then you can have 0. So you can put it as 0. If the velocity of a spring mass system, which starts from 0, is given by phi sine 3t, then its amplitude of displacement and accelerations are 1. All right. So the displacement is given by phi sine 3t. Displacement y is given by phi sine 3t. Now, you know, the displacement is given by so this is now going to be then the velocity is now going to be dy by dt, which is nothing but 15. 1 second, children. The velocity is given. Oh, look, children, the velocity, it's not the displacement. All right. So let us, so this is now going to be, so there it was catchy. So read the question properly. It is given as d or dx by dt. That is the velocity. That is given by 5 sine theta. Now, you know, when you differentiate velocity, you'll get acceleration, right? So d squared x by dt squared. So when I differentiate, what do I get? I'll get it as 15 cos 3t. That is now going to be 15 cos 3t. And what would be the displacement? Displacement is now going to be the integration of velocity. So when I integrate this, what do I get? So I'll get it as x is equal to 5 by 3 times 1 minus cos 3t. So now compare. You can see that A is equal to 15 and 5 by 3 is now going to be the displacement, which is nothing but 1.67. Okay, so x is equal to 1.67. 5 by 3 is 1.67. So quickly 1.67 and 15, option B is correct. Save that, go to the next. A simple pendulum is suspended inside a truck moving uniformly with a small acceleration of A. Its mean position as an angle in radians with respect to the vertical is what? So in this case, the simple pendulum can be, so two components of acceleration are now going to be felt by mass of a simple pendulum inside the truck. All right, there are now going to be two components of acceleration. So the vertical acceleration is now going to be due to the acceleration due to gravity, that is 9.81 meters per second square. And the internal acceleration of the opposite to that of the motion of the truck. All right. So I can quickly put it like, say, if this is now going to be the ball, so this one and this one, these are the two components. So the pendulum takes a mean position such that T sine alpha is equal to MA. So obviously this is now going to be T sine alpha and this is now going to be T cos alpha. So T cos alpha is equal to mg. That is the weight of the pendulum. Now divide both, you get tan alpha is equal to A by G. Let's see which option is correct. A by G, B option is correct. Solve that, go to the next. The motion of stars is a harmonic motion, periodic motion, linear motion, circular motion. Which can be the correct answer? Motion of stars is relative to Earth. Hence, as Earth rotates, the stars relatively move with the period of for a day. Further, as the Earth moves round the sun, the stars are seen to occupy different positions, right? So it cannot be. So it should be a periodic motion. Say that, go to the next. How many minimum observations of velocity are required to quantify a simple harmonic motion to form the exact equation describing the displacement as a function of time? So which can be the correct option in this? Earlier we saw a similar question like this. So 3 measurements are needed to solve A, omega and phi. So that means 3 options, 3 unknowns are there. So it should be 3. Yeah. Okay. 9th question. The damping in a system lowers the resonant frequency compared to the natural frequency proportionally, does not affect the resonant frequency, increases the resonant frequency compared to natural frequency, lowers the resonant frequency but as a non-linear function. So which can be the correct option? Let's quickly solve that. Now you know omega dash is equal to root of omega n squared minus d squared by 4 m squared. sorry, 4m. Yeah, v squared by 4m squared. I'm sorry, v squared by 4m squared. So if omega n is now going to be the undamped natural frequency, now from this equation you can see that omega dash is lesser than omega n. Omega dash is lesser than omega n. So that means it increases the resonant frequency compared to the natural frequency. So see that. If the velocity of a spring mass system which starts from 0 is given by 7 sine 4t, then its amplitude, displacement and accelerations are what? It is very similar to the earlier one which we saw. So again, make a note here, the velocity is given as 7 sine 4t. So velocity dx by dt is equal to 7 sine 4t. All right. 7 sine 4t. So in order to find out the acceleration, we need to differentiate this. So d squared x by dt squared is equal to, so that will give you 7 4s are 28 cos 4t. And in order to find out the displacement, we need to integrate it. So x would be, when you integrate, you get it as 7 by 4 cos 1 minus cos of 4t. So from this we can see a is 28 and x is 7 by 4. Let's see which option is correct. 28 and 7 by 4. Yeah, B option is correct. So 7 by 4 is 1.75. So that is correct. Skip that. Go to the next. The motion of an electric train through the day is, what can be the motion of a train? Is it a linear motion, circular motion, harmonic motion or periodic motion? It is now going through the same linear path every day. So it goes to one destination, comes back to the another, then goes back to the, so it is now going to be to and fro motion. So it is now going to be a periodic motion. How many minimum observations of acceleration are required to quantify a simple harmonic motion? So here again, you can see that acceleration, velocity and position are similar as far as oscillations are concerned. And so we need to make at least 3 measurements to solve such equations. So 3 unknowns are needed. So save that, go to the next. The 13th question. The displacement y of a particle in a medium can be expressed as y equals 10 to the power of minus 6 sine 100t plus 20x plus pi by 4 meters, where t is in seconds and x is in meters. So the speed of the wave is what? Let's quickly solve that. So it is given that y is equal to 10 to the power of minus 6 sine 100t plus 20x plus pi by 4. Now you can compare with the general equation y is equal to a sine omega t plus kx plus phi. Now you can see, you compare both the equation, in the place of omega you have 100. So omega is equal to 100. 100 radians per second. The unit for, SI unit for omega is 100 radians per second. And k, in the place of k you have 20. So k is equal to 20 per meter. And b is equal to omega by k, which is equal to 100 by 20, which is equal to 5 meters per second. So let's see which option is correct. 5 meters per second. Yeah. Save that, go to the next. The time taken by a particle in simple harmonic motion to reach from equilibrium position to one end is 25 seconds. The angular velocity omega is what? the angular frequency omega is 1. All right. Let's quickly solve this. So time taken to reach from one extreme to the equilibrium position is given as T by 4. Now, it is, look into the question carefully, it is 25 seconds. It takes 25 seconds. So that is equal to 25 seconds, right? So from this, we infer that T is equal to 100 seconds. Now, omega is equal to 2 pi by T, which is equal to 2 into pi divided by 100, which is equal to 2 pi into 10 to the power of minus 2. Let's see which option is correct. Yeah, 2 pi into 10 to the power minus 2 seconds. Yes, that is correct. Save that. Go to the last one. An observer is moving towards a stationary source of frequency 320 Hertz with a velocity of 10 meters per second. The speed of sound in air is 343 meters per second. The new frequency heard by the observer is 1. So obviously you can see that Doppler effect has to be, it is a sum related to Doppler effect. So the observer, the frequency of the source is given, velocity is given, and the speed of sound is given, and they are asking you to find out the frequency of the observer. Okay, so you'll have to quickly remember that the let me put it as F dash is equal to, that is what is needed. So, sorry, VO plus VS divided by VS into F, where VO stands for the observer, VS stands for the velocity of the source, and F is the original frequency of the source. So that is now going to be, now having known all the values, you can quickly apply that. It's a direct application of the formula. So look what is being given, 10, right? 10, and then the frequency of the source is now given as 320. So just substitute that and find out. So the velocity, the speed of the air is given as 3. So S is now going to be 343. You can now substitute that. So you can either take it as Vs or simply V only. Okay. So it is now going to be 10 plus Vs is 343, right? 343 divided by 343 times 320. When you simplify this, it is now going to be 353 divided by 343 into 320. So when you simplify this, you get it as 329 Hertz. Let's see which option is correct. 329 Hertz. So option A is correct. So we have completed all the tests. Save that. End the test. The results are loading. Yeah, it says 2 answers were wrong. Let's see what were wrong. The green says all the answers are correct. So question 4 and 9 were wrong. Let us quickly see what went wrong. So the damped natural frequency is lower or equal to the undamped natural frequency. Let us see the explanation. So damped natural frequency is always lower than undamped frequency. So that is equal to the roots. So if they are real, it is something similar to the undamped system. If they are complex conjugate with large imaginary values, then it is lowly damped, and it is critically damped if the roots just break as real numbers. So option A should be correct. It is lower or equal to the undamped frequency. All right. So I deliberately went wrong so that you can access which way the wrong, how to access the wrong questions. All right. Now let us go to the 9th question. Let us see where it went wrong. So the damping in a system lowers the resonant value. Yes, it lowers the resonant value, but as a non-linear function, does not affect the So we marked it as increases the resonant frequency. Actually, we saw that omega dash was lesser than omega n. So that should have been, it lowers the resonant frequency, but I deliberately marked it as increases the resonant frequency so that you should know how to access or verify your correct answers also. See, omega n squared minus b squared by 4m squared, where omega n is, so omega dash is lesser than omega n. So that should have been the correct answer. So that went wrong. So 2 questions went wrong. So by this, you can actually verify the explanation part and how to do it correctly by if you're now, since we went wrong, until or otherwise you are going to be thorough with all the questions. Every question has to be correct. So until then, you can take the test many number of times so that you're going to be thorough with the concepts. So we have covered all the important concepts. This lesson is quite easy, and many of the questions are now going to be more of theoretical questions also. And the important things which you have to remember is basically on the Doppler effect. The questions might come based on the Doppler effect. So concentrate more on that so that it will be helpful for you. And same way, how to compare with respect to oscillations, you know how we compare the how we got the velocity part and the acceleration. When the velocity is given, how we calculated the displacement and how we calculate the acceleration. So these are the different types of questions which you can expect from this particular chapter. So with this, we have completed the 11th syllabus. From Monday, I'll be going with the 12th syllabus, which is having a more weightage, especially the electrostatics and the ray optics, the wave optics. All these lessons have a greater weightage. So you can spread it to your students. Those who are now in the 12th standard or 11th standard, you can, those who are now just entered the 12th standard also, it is now going to be a revision for them, because this, we are going to revise all the important concepts from the first lesson to the last lesson, the 12th standard syllabus also. So spread it to your students and ask them to attend the classes. So until then, see you all on Monday. Until then, goodbye, children.